Raw and unfiltered, Kyrie did not hold back. Shannon, do you like or do you have a problem with what Kyrie said after that game?
I have a problem with it, and I get it. I get Kyrie's frustration because he's absolutely right, because the fans can be unrelenting. And I think the thing is what he's done now, Skip, is that I can only imagine what it's going to be like Tuesday. If they saw the reaction that they got out of him after Sunday's game, can you imagine? Now they're about to turn the heat up. And Kyrie's absolutely right, because it's not the entire arena. It's 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 10 fans that they find what they can say, and they're saying all these things that they would never say to you if they saw you on the street. And then they get you in this environment and they feel they can say and do whatever. But I think Kyrie was doing a great job, Skip, by lighting the Celtics ass up. That's the way you pay them back. It was the Celtics fans' fault that Kyrie was going KY. And they didn't get an opportunity to finish it off. But now what he's done is that he let the fans know that this kind of rhetoric and this kind of talk and the heckling, he's let the fan base know that it bothers him. So now they really have no choice. There is no love lost between Kyrie Irving and the Celtics fan base, Skip. They feel that Kyrie dipped out on them. You remember, Skip, I think he had a surgery on a deviated septum in a Game 7. Kyrie said that he would love to stay in Boston for as long as they would have him. Kyrie left. The fans like when a team trades a player, team releases a player, but you do not have the gall or the audacity to leave us. And that's what Kyrie did. Kyrie was a free agent. He didn't re-sign with the Celtics. He left. They held that against him. They held against him that in a Game 7, Skip, instead of being there for his teammates, he chose to have surgery. So I get the level of frustration on both sides, but I thought Kyrie at this stage of his career was a different player mentally than he was then. I thought he was a lot more mature in this situation now than he was then. I thought he had grown. Kyrie, the only thing I can say, bro, is lean on your faith. You believe in your faith. You believe God walks with you every step of the way. Take the high road, because you can't win this situation. Now, because he's a repeat offender, Skip, I think he's gotten fined before by saying things of this nature. He said something walking to the locker room that definitely the NBA is going to frown upon. Yep. They're not going to be happy with some of the things that he said. And they're definitely not going to be happy with what he said, because remember, Skip, they just fined Pat Bev for saying not nearly what Kyrie said. So it was a bad situation. It was a great game. And I'm sorry that Kyrie has to go through this. But now he exacerbated the situation. He's going to make it worse. They're not going to stop now because they feel they're having an impact on him mentally. Because if you look at the game, Skip, you'd have thought they was cheering for him the way he had it going for the entirety of the ball game. But unfortunately, athletes have to go through this. But Kyrie, they did this to Mr. Russell. If you read his book, I think Cornbread Maxwell, Cedric Maxwell can speak to this. You just need to talk to some of the black Celtics players that played there. Can you imagine what the opponents, what they get? We hear this a lot, Skip, with Red Sox and the players, what they be hearing from when they're in the infield, what they be hearing from the stands. So this is nothing new, and I don't want to single out Boston because it happens a lot around the country. But Kyrie handled this situation wrong, Skip, and he only made the situation worse on Tuesday night.
Okay. I hear everything you just said, and I must say that as I listened to Kyrie speak last night, the first person I thought of was you, Shannon Sharpe. We have discussed this issue many times on this show. You have lived through this issue as a professional football player now in the Hall of Fame. You have experienced these kinds of heckles, these catcalls, the profanity that is thrown in your direction. But in your sport, the fans aren't nearly as close as they are, obviously, in Kyrie's sport. Just on my small little level, I've experienced a lot of this when I've done various speaking engagements or we've taken shows on the road. I've heard my share of boos when we used to, pre-pandemic, actually attend NBA games. Trust me, I've heard my share of all of the above. What was I taught to do from day one? To just don't hear it, not have, what's the classic term in your sport? Don't have rabbit ears.
Right.
And Kyrie Irving yesterday had the biggest rabbit ears in the history of sports. And yet,
he had elephant ears.
He had elephant ears. He did. That's well said. Bingo. Yet, Shannon, As I digested this last night, I arrived at a different conclusion. I actually began to appreciate what Kyrie said after what Kyrie had done. He is going to get fined probably more than $25,000 because, to your point,
absolutely,
he's a repeat offender, and we've got the bird shot once after a made three, and then we've got the double birds behind his head to fans sitting right behind him in the first couple of rows. And then, to your point, again, as he left the court, walked up the tunnel, and was entering the locker room, some fan yelled, "Kyrie, you suck," and he responded with, "You know what?" And all of the above might add up to, I don't know, 35,000, 50,000. It could be 50,000 because this was on a very big stage in a very big playoff game. It was the marquee game, obviously, of opening weekend because we've never had an 8 seed like the Nets, who sort of fell into the 8 seed. Yeah.
7 seed.
What's that?
7th seed.
I'm sorry, 7th seed against a 2 seed. So we've never had this kind of a marquee matchup in a game one with this kind of melodrama surrounding it because Kyrie was there. And to your point, Kyrie had said at one point at a fan fest, a fan outing, I want to re-sign here if you will have me back. And now he characterizes Boston fans as scorned lovers. Okay, so what do we know about Kyrie Irving? Of all the athletes I've ever closely observed, no athlete marches to the beat of his own drummer, a different drummer, the way Kyrie Irving does. He wants to shatter every mold in and out of basketball. He wants to change the world. This was a revolutionary approach to rabbit ears. This is Kyrie flipping the script on the fans and saying, hey, I'm going to have the same energy. I'm going to go back at you just as hard as you come at me. I will respond, as they used to say, in kind. Not that it's a kind response, but if you go there, I'll go there too. If you go to that word, I'll do this. If you go that word, I'll do that. And he even went so far at one point as to say, so if somebody's going to call me out on my name, I'm going to look at them straight in the eye and see if they're really about that. Most of the time, they're not. Okay, well, now we're completely crossing the line. He's actually suggesting, if you want to throw down right now, let's go. Let's just go.
We can do this.
Okay, well, obviously, that will not work. Obviously, the last time we saw anything of that magnitude, it was the Malice in the Palace, featuring Ron Artest, or whichever name you want to use for Ron right now. Love the man. Meta. And he lost it. And he literally crossed the line up in the stands. Our man Steven Jackson was right behind him. And it got ugly. Well, obviously, that can't happen. But on the other hand, I must admit, having watched this so closely for so long, to your point, Shannon, these players are sick and tired of the verbal abuse that they are forced to just live with. Just suck up and swallow. Worse too. What's that?
Skip is getting worse.
Yeah.
And I get, I heard Shaq and I heard Charles. I heard Shaq and I heard Charles and I hear some other players.
Yeah.
But the vitriol, if you listen to what these fans are starting to say, it used to be you just suck and you're not any good. But they're going to call you Bs and MFs and SOBs and all of this.
Yep.
The vitriol is ramped up a lot more than what it was when those guys played.
Okay, so now it feels like the fans feel even more empowered than ever because they see the players getting fined, and oftentimes they see that they're having an impact on the game. Well, this was the first time I can recall when they had a negative impact on the game because the more they heckled, the more they cursed, the more shots he made. He made, as you know, he scored 18 points in the fourth quarter and very nearly stole this game right out from under them because it appeared to me, Shannon, that Kyrie was actually feeding off their vitriol. He was fueled by the fans' fire. So, again, they're trying to get even with him. And, in fact, he turned the tables and said, I'm going to embrace what he called the dark side. I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to use it for my fuel. Well, That was a beautiful thing to watch because I don't really recall that ever happening quite to that extent. So when you ask, do I have a problem with this? I don't. But again, I'm not advocating violence in return. I'm not advocating crossing the line and say, if you want to go, let's go right here, because obviously Kyrie's smarter than that. But he is sending a powerful message back to the fans through his post-game remarks. I'm just not going to take it from you. Now, will that escalate it when they play? You better believe it will. And yet, will that continue to fuel Kyrie even more than ever? It might. And the more shots he makes, the quieter it will get at Boston Garden, right?
Right. Yeah. But, Skip, Skip, you mentioned there are a lot of times people go to an event just to get a reaction at the person that's either speaking at the event or someone that's showing up. There are a lot of fans that come to the game. Well, you know what? I'm going to the game. I'm not going to try to enjoy the game. I'm going to try to get a reaction out of a player. So I'm going to say, I'm going to be close enough that I can say something repeatedly over and over again, and hopefully I'm in earshot of said player, and he can hear me. And a lot of times, Skip, like you said, unlike football, you got 80,000 fans, Skip, and we're so far removed. Unless we come to the bench and our backs up against the bench, we really can't hear. I'm on the field. I can't hear anything. Even if I'm running down the sideline, Skip, if I run out of bounds, I can't hear anything that's being said. Everything sounds like either boo or yay. But when you're a player and you're on the court, Skip, you can hear that. You can hear what's being said. I've heard players, people sitting courtside and they were filming, and they say something, and guys like, shut the bleep up or call them a you-know-what. So they can hear. And like Kyrie said, it's not one or two. It's repeated. At what point, when does a person reach their breaking point, say, you know what, enough. But if I'm Kyrie, if I can spot the person out, by the time they might have 18,000 fans, by the time I pointed another person out by security to get them up out of there might be 10 fans in the building. But Skip, you're right. Enough is enough. I'm not condoning the way Kyrie, you can't come to the podium and they almost have to bleep out everything you said for about 5 or 6 seconds, then give them the bird not once, but twice, and on your way to the locker room say what you said. Under no circumstance will Adam Silver understand your side of it. You're going to get fined. You're going to get fined very, very heavily because you are what they call a repeat offender. You've been fined before for such language. But I get what Kyrie said, like, man, when is enough enough? Why do we always have to be the bigger person? Why do we have to be the adult in the room? Because a lot of times, Skip, it's adults that's doing this. These aren't kids that are yelling these obscenities and yelling these profanities and saying all these. These are grown-ass men and women. So you're expecting, and I get it, well, you making, people got to stop this. Because someone makes a lot of money, they feel that that you're a zoo animal. It's like you go to the zoo, Skip, and you throw things at them and you yell and you do all those things because, well, I did pay for admission. Yep. You are in there, so you're here for my pleasure. Yep. Kyrie said, nah, bump that. No, I'm not. I'm here. You want to boo me? Okay. But y'all going over the line with these names.
All right. So quick point of order to what you said about how he had to be bleeped out in his post-game comments. Most of the bleeps were Kyrie repeating the words that he had heard during the game.
Right. Yes.
I, for one, I appreciate those bleeps because my pet peeve in all these instances, when we have all these controversies, more often than not, the player can't say or won't say what he or she heard. And it puts us in jeopardy because we're looking at each other usually saying, well, it depends how far it went. Well, he just gave me the words. I got them right here. And then at the end of those three words the three phrases that he gave us, then he said, F that. Well, that was from Kyrie. And Shannon, when he said F that, again, I don't condone the profanity, and he will get fined for using it, but at least he gave us the measuring stick of the profanity that he alleges that he heard. And I don't doubt that he did hear these words during the game. So I have grudging appreciation for all of the above, right?
Right. Yes, yes. It took the speculation. Skip it, like you said. A lot of times when they say, well, he said something, well, what did he say? Well, I don't want to say what he said. It leads us to speculation. It leads us to innuendo and conjecture. Yeah. Now, there is no speculation.
No.
Kyrie is saying, this is what they continuously said to me over and over, repeatedly. And I just said, you know what? Since you're going to say it to me, I'm going to say it back to you. I'm going to give you some of the medicine that you think you're giving me. I want to give it back to you and see how you like the taste of it.
Yep.
The problem is, I'm sure they didn't like the taste of it, but someone that didn't like the taste even more was the NBA.
Well,
and that's what he's, Skip, Skip, at the end of the day, Skip, the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, they expect you to take the higher of the highest roads. But sometimes, Skip, I can't climb that high. I ain't got a vehicle that can elevate that high. At some point in time, Skip, enough is enough. I mean, I don't know, Skip, I get the booing. But why would you go to a game to call someone a mofo? To call someone an SOB, to tell someone that you know what to you. What? When? You wouldn't dare say that. If you walk down the street, you wouldn't say that to Kyrie. You wouldn't say that to an NBA player or NFL player. But now because you have the protections, because you're like, well, I paid $500, I paid $1,000, $10,000 for a ticket, you feel emboldened. You feel you have a protection because of that paper that you're allowed to say and do whatever. And you're not. You should. I don't get why grown adults go to I get sometimes kids, Skip, a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, they've heard something repeated. I get that. But these are more times than not. These are grown men and women that be yelling these things at these players.
Okay, I got you. And obviously, if we go biggest picture, dating back to the days of Jackie Robinson and, to your point, Bill Russell in Boston, they were trained, they were taught you cannot respond. You must. You might hear it, but you can't feel it. Don't let it sink in. Just play. Keep your mind on your game. Well, obviously, Jackie Robinson couldn't respond because he's the first black man to play baseball. So if you respond,
and there's never been a black.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's never been a black in baseball, Skip.
Okay.
Another one.
Right. Okay. So we get that part, but now Kyrie is turning the tables in a revolutionary way, where he's saying, I'm going to give it back. And it's possible that could, over time, calm it down some, because some fans sitting that close will be saying, I don't know if I want Kyrie coming right back at me.
Right.
So there's some of that I appreciate. At some point, you just have to stand your ground and say, that's enough of that. And so there's something here that I respect about this. Again, he's going to have to bear up under it because it will initially escalate. But again, the way to turn down the sound is you just keep making shots.
Right. And I think the thing is, Skip, you would like to think that Boston would like to move away from this kind of history, because more times than not, it's been the old Boston Garden. It's been the Red Sox and what's being heard and what's being said.
Yep.
You would like to think over the course of time, 50, 60, 70 years, you say, you know what? We're better than that. We're bigger than that. We're going to move past that. But it seems like they embrace that. They think that's a badge of honor for them. When you come here, we get on you so bad, we get people out of their games. Okay, if that's the way you feel about it, so be it. But I like to think that, you know what? I don't think anymore. Our society, we keep saying, Skip, we're better than that. Are we really? Are we really? I think at some point in time, Skip, we're going to have to come to the realization this is who we are as a nation. This is who we are as a country. And it's only getting worse. It's not getting better. The Dr. King speech, the I Have a Dream speech in 1963, Skip.
Yep.
That's almost 60 years ago. And here we are still dealing with a lot of the same issues that he spoke that a better day was coming. I don't know if we've seen this day on the horizon just yet.
Yeah, all of which is why I was thinking last night, if Shannon Sharpe had been in Kyrie's sneakers yesterday, I just think there might have come a point when you would have gone Kyrie. I just think there would have been a point.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.